On behalf of hockey fans everywhere, I want to thank the Florida Panthers for their 2-1 victory over the New York Rangers last night. Now that the Rangers are officially eliminated from the playoffs, I am going to tell you why this series meant so much to hockey fans across the nation and what this means for hockey in general. I'm Haley Taylor Simon, your host of Haley's Hot Take, talking hockey per usual, emergency episode, baby. So, as I did mention last night, the Panthers with a 2-1 victory over those New York Rangers, and the Panthers won the series 4-2, sending them to the Stanley Cup Finals, second time back-to-back seasons. So now the Panthers are looking for revenge after their loss to the Golden Knights in the finals last year. But this is really cool for hockey fans if you think about it, because you had an original six team within the New York Rangers that had all this momentum, right? They obviously had the bigger fan base, more history, but couldn't get the job done. And the Panthers were just the better team. They played like the better team, and overall, they just were the better team. Now, this series also was entertaining for hockey fans because it had three overtimes. That is right, three overtime games. And for me, being a hockey fan, I love overtime. That is the most entertaining thing besides a game seven overtime. Now, nothing will compare to that. But anytime you have a game going to OT, you know it's a competitive series between the two teams. And it wasn't a high scoring series. You didn't see necessarily, like 6 goals a game. But what you did see out of this series was competitive hockey. You had great defense, and especially the blue lines of both of the teams played outstanding. I know the Rangers kind of crumbled towards the end, but they just couldn't get any pucks behind Bobrovsky. And that goes to the testament that Florida is just a powerhouse team right now. I mean, you have Sam Reinhart, who's about to be an unrestricted free agent after this season. And if I were the Panthers, I would try to keep him. But if I were any other team in the NHL, I would be like, hey, let's go sign him because the value that he has is unbelievable. But last night we saw goals from Bennett, and then we also saw a goal from a guy that I care about deeply that used to be on the St. Louis Blues, Vladimir Tarasenko. He had the goal that gave the Panthers a 2-0 lead. And then towards the end of the game, the Rangers ended up scoring one goal. But evidently, the Rangers couldn't capitalize with about a little over a minute left. And that's how the final results of the game happened. But it's funny. Everybody hates Matthew Tkachuk, right? Bruins fans hate him. Rangers fans hate him. But the rest of us in the NHL, we love him. The way that he plays the game is kind of like old school hockey, where he is aggressive. His hits are big, but that's what makes hockey exciting. And that's what not Tarasenko. That is what Tkachuk does for the game. And again, think about it. He has a hockey family. His father, Keith Tkachuk, played for the Blues. Obviously, you have Brady with the Senators, captain of them. But the Kachuk family is definitely a very talented family. But think about the success the state of Florida has had in like the most recent 5 years, right? You've had the Tampa Bay Lightning back-to-back cup champs. I mean, Florida is becoming a hockey state. And this is so good for the NHL because if you want to expand the sport, especially, there's always talks of expansion teams coming into the league. Not anytime soon. I know they have the whole Utah situation right now, but just for the game and growing the fan base, when you have success, and I know what you're going to say, oh, bandwagons suck. And I get that. But when you have success, people are naturally going to draw in. And I think for the Panthers, they're 30 years old, the organization, right? And they have grown massively over the past couple of seasons due to their success on the ice. And I think back to a lot of these teams that came into the league, especially the early on teams. You have the original six. Obviously, that's going to have a strong fan base because they would always win. It was just a rotation of who was going to win. Then you had the 67 teams. And, like the Blues went to the finals 3 years in a row, their first 3 years in the season. The Flyers were, I believe it was like the earliest expansion team to win a cup. Like there's so many success stories about all of these teams that joined the league kind of early on. And you don't necessarily see that with some of these teams that join the league later. And it's not their fault. When you look at the history of hockey, it makes sense on why some of these teams that have come into the NHL early on have such strong fan bases. You saw success early on. There wasn't as much competition. Now it's a whole different story where you have 32 competitive hockey teams. And when you add different teams, expansion teams, relocation, all of that, it's going to be harder to win a cup. So I think for Florida, and the exciting thing about them is yes, I know it's been 30 years, and I know that's not a long time in theory, but at the end of the day, it's gonna grow the game and continue to grow the game. For the league, I think the one thing that sucks the most with this whole Arizona Utah situation was the fact that they did have to relocate a team. I don't think any league wants to do that. I think expansion, yes, like go for it. That's awesome. The game is growing. But a relocation means that it obviously failed in a certain market. And we saw that with Atlanta going back to Winnipeg. Like we've seen that a little bit too much in recent years, relatively speaking. So I think at the end of the day, this could potentially save the Panthers, right? I'm not saying if they were in any financial trouble, I don't know that, but I'm just saying as a fan speculating, I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to like resave the franchise again. So it was an absolute beaut of a win, but obviously, obviously, I have a little bit of I guess you can say dislike towards the New York Rangers. And that's why last night's win was an absolute beaut for me. I was ecstatic. Like I was celebrating like I'm a Panthers fan, okay? And I think the reason why is a couple of former players you have Sergei Bobrovsky, then you also have Vladimir Tarasenko. Like, you have players that I like. Matthew Kachuk, I like. Sam Bennett, I like. Reinhardt, I like. Brandon Montour. I really do like a lot of these players on the Florida Panthers. And I think last night's game just really made me so happy knowing that all these Rangers fans would be upset. And I'm not coming at you, New York fans, because I know it sucks to lose, and I get that. But I had to ask, obviously, on Twitter at Haley T. Simon. I said, hockey fans, are you happy that the Panthers eliminated the Rangers? Let me know your thoughts for Haley's hot take. And it blew up. Like, blew the amount of replies, like, just were insanity. I have never seen this many replies off of just like two random hockey teams, right? So this is from Justin. I'm going to read you a couple of thoughts and then I'll give you my thoughts. Justin says, my thoughts are quite simple. Both are great teams, but the Rangers were not the Rangers we all knew they should have been. If it wasn't for Shesterkin, the series was over sooner. It hurts because I don't hate the Rangers. They just didn't show up like the Panthers did. And I think that's a really good unbiased take. I mean, Shesterkin obviously showed up, right? Um, but then you have guys like Chris Kreider that did put in the effort. I did see that out of Kreider. Um, but the team as itself just really wasn't the Rangers, right? And even if you dislike the Rangers and you hate their fan base or whatever, I think you can still say without a bias that they just didn't look the same. And I like, Peter Laviolette, obviously. I like him a lot as a coach. Do I think that there was anything that he could have done? No. He changed up the lines the best that he could, but at the end of the day, if your players are not going to show up, then there's nothing more to be said. I mean, you can't always rely on the goalie, right? That's not going to cut it. You need guys to score, and there was a couple players, as I mentioned, that did put in effort, but it just wasn't enough to secure them any security in any game, to be honest. Even the games that they won, it just never felt like it was totally them. So that was a good point. Chris says Rangers fans are Knicks fans, and I'm happy they're sad. So Michael Reeves, I don't know if is that actually his name? That's cool if he has that name. He said, happy for Bob and Vladdy. Overall disappointed though. What are you disappointed because it didn't feel like it was that intense of a series? I thought it was. I thought it was a great series. Um, a lot of go Bob go. People saying bleep New York, hate the Rangers, but nail the Flyers pick drop. So this is another thing. Listen, we all knew the Panthers were going to be a cup contending team again this season. They didn't really change up much to their team. They made some aggressive moves at the deadline with getting Tarasenko. But at the end of the day, everybody should have gone into the Stanley Cup playoffs knowing that the Panthers were going to make a deep run. While I understand that, for the Flyers, it would have been more beneficial to have, like the 27th overall pick, and then it became the 30th, and now it's going to either be the 31st or 32nd. This is what I have to say to you. At the end of the day, there's no control that we have over the outcome of a game. What we can say is this: there could always be trades, right? You could always move up your pick. Even if it's late in the first round, and having a first overall pick still gives you value to do so many things, which I can dive into happily. But I'm not panicked about it because at the end of the day, you have to trust Danny Briere and the Flyers management of what they can do. And I truly do believe that even if you have like the 32nd overall pick or 31st overall pick, that could be value to so many other teams. It could be value to your own team. And there's a lot of guys that I even think will go late in the first or early in the second that are going to be such huge difference makers. So I would love to do a whole episode going over that, or my articles, which you can find on Philly Sports Network now. So I will be more than happy to break that down. I just could never root for the Rangers. Are you kidding me? Um, a lot of people, I'm ecstatic. This is awesome. Um, oh wow. Ted says, yes, but super annoyed. Two former Philadelphia Flyers goaltenders are playing in the Cup final on the same team and providing the point of getting rid of Bobrovsky will haunt the Flyers forever. But okay, listen, I get it. It sucks that we don't have Bob. I get it. And we didn't really get much for him at all. But at the end of the day, like it's so in the past. This happened forever ago. And you just have to kind of let it go, right? It sucks. Okay. And the other goalie, that they were talking about right now, by the way, is the backup. It's, is he the backup? No, he's on the Panthers now. It's Anthony, Stoltz. So, yeah, like, I get it, but, like, he wouldn't have been, like, a star anyway. Bob's the only one that's playing. So, let's take away the anger and frustration and just let it go. Again, all these tweets are Bob, Bob, Bob. Williams said the disappointment in the announcer's voice of the Rangers loss is obvious. I said that to the broadcast unbiased the whole time, which honestly, if I was a Panthers fan, I would have been furious listening to that broadcast last night. Um, Dave said, did you grow up in this town? There is a natural hate for everything New York and Dallas. Also, Bob being an ex Flyer, you're hard for him because he's so good and deserves it. So, yes, obviously I grew up here, but I wanted to ask the question because it was for hockey fans, not just for Philadelphia fans. That's why I'm happy that I saw some other comments too, because I think everybody just loves to see New York lose, and that's my theory. I guess people would say the same thing about Philadelphia. Do people like to see Philadelphia lose? Do like I genuinely want to know. If you are not from Philadelphia, do you get joy out of seeing Philadelphia teams lose? I really hope you say no. Like, we are honestly the best sports city, so please don't say no. I'm just curious. But I'm gonna give you my thoughts on New York being eliminated. It's up to you, New York, for choking. The President's Trophy curse is so real. Let me tell you. But it was beautiful to see. Obviously, it sucks individually for players. Like, I don't hate, specific players, right? But at the same time, seeing the Rangers lose, and I do like Keandre Miller, so I felt bad. But seeing the team lose as a whole, like, it just brings me such joy because now we don't have to watch the Rangers with the possibility of them hoisting the cup. So for me, it was a positive. But tonight is a big game because you have the Edmonton Oilers who are up 3-2 against the Dallas Stars. And let me tell you, despite the game being a 3-1 victory for Edmonton the other night, it was such a boring game. I was bored and annoyed because when I watch hockey, I want to see riveting, entertaining hockey. And I did not see riveting, entertaining hockey. I saw mediocre hockey. So I'm really hoping tonight's game is good. I hope we get push it to a game 7, possibly. That would be ideal. A Panthers Oilers Stanley Cup final would be so interesting. That'd be a crazy one. I don't know. Like, what would you rather see? Edmonton or Dallas against the Panthers? I am so curious and I am torn because I had the Dallas Stars winning the Stanley Cup back in August. That was my prediction. And and I'm going to do a whole thing on the Stars if they end up losing. But if you look at the Stars, in the past 5 years or so, and you see all the, losses that they've had in the playoffs and being such a good regular season team, it's like the most pathetic thing. It's sad. It's really sad. So let me know, who would you rather see, the Oilers or the Stars? I'm going to go on a limb here and say that there's going to be a game 7, just because I am trying to put that into the hockey gods as like prayers, because I love me some game 7s, but I do have a feeling that it's going to be Edmonton tonight that's going to win it all. But I want a game 7 because the playoffs, I mean, the finals, not the playoffs. The finals begin a week from yesterday, so 6 days from now. I don't want to go 5 days without hockey. So like please, I really need hockey to go to a game 7. I love game 7s. I live for game 7s. Game 7 OT, game 7 double OT, game 7 triple OT. Listen, I love it. I like it. That was very on Smashville Predators brand. But no, I truly do love it. I will talk to you after the conclusion of the Western Conference Finals. That might be an episode tomorrow. That might be an episode in a couple of days. I don't know. Time will tell. But congratulations again to those Florida Panthers for becoming your Eastern Conference champions. Also, they didn't touch the trophy this year, so that was very good on Paul Maurice to make sure to tell his team, no, 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 do not touch it. It's bad luck. All right, I will talk to you again after the conclusion of that Western Conference. And until then, let's do that hockey.